Hey everybody, this is Steve again. Now, do you feel empowered or disempowered in life and in work, in your workplace, for example? Do other people? Would you like to feel more empowered? Would you like people around you to feel more empowered? Well, at the end of today's 10-minute coaching bite, you're going to have some new ideas about how you experience your power and how you can assist other people in experiencing their power too. We're going to talk about what empowerment is. We're going to talk about how you experience it. Perhaps most importantly of all, is to talk about how the idea that I can empower you might actually be the most disempowering thing that you can hear. So if this interests you, give me a like. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notifications bell. Now, in many ways, accessing our power, which is how I think about empowerment, is what coaching is all about. Everybody I've coached since 2006 is somebody that, to some extent or another, I'm working with to experience their power. So let's get going with this. So what is empowerment? Well, there are actually two different ways you can look at empowerment. There is empowerment as in granting authority and rights to people. And that might be more congruent with positional power, like giving somebody a position of responsibility in an organization, where as a consequence of having that position, they're entitled to make certain decisions. And then there is empowerment as in people experiencing their personal power. So think about this as in the separation between positional power, having a position that comes with certain rights and privileges, and personal power, which is the ability to experience your power to influence the situations that you are in. The phrase personal power was made very popular by Tony Robbins, the very famous coach and guru. And I know that the concept of personal power is perhaps a little bit vague, perhaps not very well pinned down and defined. But to me, it's the experience that you matter, that you always have a choice, and it's the experience of exercising that choice. Not just knowing that you have it, but exercising it. Because if you knew that you mattered, and I don't mean at an intellectual level, if you really experience that you mattered, if you really experience that you have a choice, and that you make the decision to exercise your choice, that is you exercising and channeling your power. Now, it's quite common in coaching and self-development circles to use phrases like, my job is to empower people. I empower other people. And I know that that phrase is said with the very best of intentions. And I know what people are actually pointing at when they say it. But as a literal phrase, I find it a little bit problematic. I prefer to not say that I can empower you, because your power doesn't come from me. And the thing is, if I actually believed that your power was coming from me, then that could create a potentially problematic dynamic in our relationship. And if you believed that your power came from me, that would be paradoxically disempowering. Because if your power doesn't come from you, then you're by definition disempowered. But as I mentioned, when we say I empower you, it is meant with the best intention. And where that's really coming from is the difference between having power and experiencing the power that you have. When people say I empower you, I think what they're mostly meaning, certainly what I would mean if I was saying it, is I will assist you in experiencing the power that you have. And when we're talking about experiencing the power that we have, that can vary with mood, it can vary with results. If I've had some setbacks, I might have a low level of access to the power that I actually have. And this is where we can be of service to one another, because we can point each other at the power that we have. We can remind each other of the power that we have. We can lead each other into experiences that will reawaken our knowledge about the power that we have. So one of the key presuppositions here is that the power is already there. Now, in the same way that I say I can't actually empower you because your power doesn't come from me, then in the same way, it's only a trick of the words that we think that empowerment is about creating power. It's not really about creating it, it's there. What there is our access to it and our ability to channel it. And I'd like to focus on those two words, accessing and channeling. They're the two things. It's not one or the other. It's accessing it and then channeling it. So please stop thinking about empowerment as the creation of power. Start thinking about it as accessing and channeling the power that is already there. So if it's accessing and channeling, the first thing to look at is access. So, do you know what? We generally forget how powerful we are because we spend most of our lives relatively comfortable. We spend most of our lives not facing crises. And in fact, we invest ourselves in avoiding crises, the kind of crises that would really bring out who we are. But you know what? When our back really is against the wall, we are capable of incredible things. And sometimes it's those experiences of having your back against the wall which proves to you how much power you can summon. And to some extent, when Tony Robbins does things like the fire walk, for example, he's putting people into extreme experiences which cause them to surprise themselves about what they're capable of doing. And that can be useful. But how can we experience our power and access it without creating high-stress circumstances, without creating artificial crises? Well, one way is to view our highlights reel. So what do I mean by a highlights reel? Well, imagine that you are a football team. Imagine that you took all the films of all your games and you just snipped out the best moments, the greatest moments in your sporting history and played them back to back. That's a highlights reel. And when we create our own personal highlights reel, that's to look back into our history at times where we did great things, where we were proud of what we did, where we were surprised what we did, where we amazed ourselves what we did. Now, if you're struggling to really create a highlights reel for yourself, there's two other things you can do. One is to look at inspirational people in history. I find it really inspiring to look at some of the fantastic achievements that people in history have made. I find it inspiring to look at how people in really difficult circumstances managed to be. I find it inspiring to look at, for example, Viktor Frankl. I find it inspiring to look at Anne Frank. These amazing stories point at an incredible capacity that is actually in each of us. The second thing that you can do is ask for people to assist you. Ask your friends. Remind me, what have I done that's great? I know it might sound like a needy and stupid question sometimes, perhaps, but actually your friends can help you remember what you don't remember yourself. I remember sitting down with a former boss of mine and said, hey, look, I think I know what my strengths are, but you tell me what you think my strengths are. And I heard some things that I had forgotten and surprised me. And when I heard them, I thought, oh yeah, I'm kind of proud of that. So if the first thing is about accessing power, or at least being reminded of the power that we have access to, then the second thing is channeling it. Now think about it like this. Knowing about power alone, or experiencing power on, is a little bit like having a supercar that's got the engine switched on, but is sitting in neutral. In order to make a difference with that supercar, we need to do two things. We need to engage the gears and we need to go off in a direction. And they're the two things I want to point to here, metaphorically. Engaging the gears and moving in a direction. Now, I'm actually going to start with this one because this actually comes first when we're talking about personal power, is what intention do I set for the use of my power? What goal do I want to set? What direction do I want to move in? You can ask yourself on a daily basis, how do I want to use my power today? Now, I'd like to make another important point around all of this, is that feeling your personal power and feeling empowered isn't about rushing off on your own and doing random things. There are references around us to check that we're applying our power in the right direction on the useful things. There are internal reference checks and there are external reference checks about us. Experiencing your power is not about being a bull in a china shop. By all means, use those references, the internal references and the external references, to check that you're applying your power in the right proportions, in the right directions, on the right things at the right time. Now, I'd love to know about your experience of empowerment in the workplace, perhaps yourself, other people. Please leave a comment to tell me about that, and I'll reply to as many comments as I can. Other than that, please like the video, please share it with your friends, and most of all, if you'd like to experience more of these 10-minute coaching bites, then please subscribe to the channel and don't forget to hit that notifications bell.